Good morning, Malacañang Press Corps. Welcome sa Bangon Marawi briefing with Assistant Secretary Toby Purisima.
Thank you, Rocky. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Malacañang Press Corps. Good morning. For this edition of the Bangon Marawi Press Briefing, we're joined by Deputy Commander of Joint Task Force Ranao, Colonel Romeo Browner, and Department of Education Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Service Director Ronilda Co. Of course, we want to open this briefing with good news. More than 90 internally displaced individuals, or IDPs, from Marawi City have completed the training of the Trainers Capacity Building Program under TESDA last week. For further details, let's watch this video.
Mahigit 70 ng mga individual na displaced o IDPs mula sa Marawi City ang nakumpleto na ang programang pagsasanay ng capacity building ng pagsasanay sa ilalim ng Technical Education and Skills Development Authority o TESDA. Ang mga benepisyaryo ng IDP, mga opisyal ng TESDA, mga kinatawan ng lokal na pamahalaan ng Marawi, mga tauhan ng operasyon ng construction ng Fiat at mga opisyal ng Task Force Bangon Marawi Field Office ay dumalo sa awarding ng mga sertipiko at seremonyal na pamamahagi ng mga toolkit sa Regional Training Center sa Iligan City. Sinabi ni TESDA Provincial Director Tarhata Mapandi na ang programa ay naglalayong magbigay ng sustainable livelihood preparation para sa mga biktima ng Marawi Siege. Tinitiyak ni Mapandi na ang TESDA ay nakatuon na maghatid ng serya ng pagsasanay kahit na sa ibang munisipalidad na malapit sa Marawi City upang magbigay ng buong suporta sa mga IDP at mga industriya ng konstruksyon. Samantala, ayon kay Abdul Jalil Manguranda, isang recipient ng training na ang programa ay kapaki-pakinabang sa pagbawi ng mga residente ng Marawi sa mga tuntunin ng paghahanda para sa mga aktibidad sa kabuhayan sa kanilang komunidad.
Ito po ay isa ring malaking may tutulong sa mga taga Marawi, lalo na po sa buong lalawigan ng Lanao del Sur. Pag nagkaroon po ng katuparan yung tinatawag nilang mga training course na gagawin sa lahat ng municipality ng Lanao del Sur para po matuto o mabigyan ng sapat na trainings yung mga tao natin doon para po sa mabilisang pagbangon ng Marawi at saka Lanao del Sur.
Tinitiyak ng TESDA sa mga benepisyaryo na ang ahensya ay nakatuon upang suportahan ang mabilis na rehabilitasyon ng lungsod. Para sa bayan, Sweet Lukman, Philippine Information Agency.
On the topic of livelihood, 43 soldiers who were wounded in action during the Marawi City siege officially signed individual investment agreements amounting to 2.596 million pesos with the Department of Trade and Industry Small Business Corporation last February 13 at the AFP Medical Center. The P3 equity investment for Kia, WIA, Marawi soldiers and families is under President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's Pondo sa Pagbabago at Pag-asenso. It will provide a maximum investment of 100,000 per soldier to finance startup ventures or the expansion of existing businesses of the soldiers and their families. Among those present during the activity were DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez, SBC President and CEO Maria Luna Cacanando, DTI USEC Zenaida Maglaya, DTI ASEC Amina Fajardo, and ASEC Antonio Bautista, who represented Department of National Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana. On the topic of livelihood, 1,500 Marawi residents joined the Negosyo Seminar para sa Marawi, entrepreneurial training conducted by the DTI at the Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology, Gymnasium, Iligan City. The seminar aims to develop livelihood opportunities and improve the recovery of the conflict-affected individuals. It also provides information regarding proposed loan agreements. The program aims to stabilize and fast-track socioeconomic development of the communities devastated by the deadly combat and regain the self-esteem of the residents. On the subject of peace building, civil society organizations conducted a solidarity walk for peace in Marawi City last February 19 at Buklod Park, MSU Marawi. It served as a gesture of their sympathy to the plight of the communities affected by the conflict. The event was led by MSU, the Consortium of Bangsamoro Civil Society, Institute of Peace and Development in Mindanao, and the United Nations Development Program, in collaboration with Heavenly Culture, World Peace Restoration of Light. Moreover, an art exhibition entitled Bagong Taon, Bagong Pag-asa para sa Bagong Marawi was opened at A-Space Makati and which will be held from January 28 to February 2. The exhibit is a collaboration between 25 artists showcasing different paintings for sale, with the proceeds dedicated for Marawi. To further raise awareness on our efforts for Marawi City, the Task Force Bangon Marawi Information Management and Strategic Communication Support Group, in cooperation with the DTI, put up a Bangon Marawi booth at the recently concluded National Information Convention at the SMX Convention Center in Davao City. The event was attended by more than 1,600 information officers across the nation. We sold a variety of Maranao products, with all proceeds going to our IDPs. We also had an exhibit of photos featuring the citizens of Marawi City, as well as a wall for people to post their messages for our Maranao brothers and sisters. Regarding the post-conflict needs assessment, the results of the post-conflict needs assessment conducted in Marawi City and other affected localities has been completed. It can be recalled that the assessment was conducted from August to December 2017 and covered various sectors, namely infrastructure, productive, social, and cross-sectoral sectors. Based on the assessment results, the total damages amount to approximately 11.5 billion pesos. Losses amount to more or less 6.7 billion pesos. And the total needs for the recovery and rehabilitation of Marawi City cost approximately 51.6 billion pesos. These amounts cover Marawi City and other affected areas in the municipalities of Butig and Piagapo in Lanao del Sur. The PCNA will also be the basis for the development and the implementation of the Bangon Marawi Comprehensive Recovery and Rehabilitation Program, or BMCRRP. Meanwhile, during the hearing of the Committee on Finance of the Regional Legislative Assembly of ARMM held in Cotabato City on February 13, the implementation of the programs, projects, and activities, or PPAs, in the Bangon Marawi CRRP was presented by NEDA. The implementation program for the PPAs in the Bangon Marawi Comprehensive Rehabilitation and Recovery Program was approved at the committee level by the Committee on Finance of the Regional Legislative Assembly and will be discussed during the next plenary session of the Regional Legislative Assembly in March. That is all I have for you today. We are now open for questions, and of course you can also ask Colonel Bronner and Director Ko.
MPC questions? Alvin Baltasar, you have question. Alvin, microphone.
Sir, kay Colonel Bronner sana. Sir, magandang umaga. Sir, kamusta yung implementation ng martial law? Sa assessment niyo po ba, tatapusin yung buong 2018 o may chance na hindi matapos yung 2018, ililift na yung martial law?
Dun sa first question mo, very effective ang martial law, especially in the areas of Marawi City and Lanao del Sur, no, including Lanao del Norte. For one, wala na tayong nakikitang mga nagdadala ng firearms openly, no? And since the implementation of martial law, halos wala na pong cases of murder, homicide, no, or other killings within Marawi City and Lanao del Sur. Of course, that is not including the RIDO, no, hindi kasama yon. But yung mga crimes related to the loss of lives from firearms, no, illegal firearms, ay nawala na ito because of our control, our gun control that we are implementing, and we are we are able to implement this because of martial law. No? Pangalawa, yung pong control natin ng entry of individuals into the barangays in Marawi City, we are able to control or monitor at least yung mga tao na pumapasok, so that this way we will prevent the entry of people who are not really from Marawi City or people who are suspected to be members of the terrorist groups. Doon po sa pangalawang tanong ninyo, ang masasabi ko lang doon is that martial law is very effective, no? And then but as to the maybe the validity of that martial law, wala po sa aming level yon. So I'm afraid I will not be able to answer that portion.
Questions?
Sir, follow-up na lang. Sir, pero kung magkakaroon kayo ng recommendation, ano yung i-recommend niyo, sir?
Well, kung manggagaling po sa amin yung recommendation, definitely we will recommend that we continue to implement martial law until the end of the year.
Questions? Catherine Valente?
Kay Colonel Bronner po. Sir, last Tuesday, may statement po si MILF Chief Murad is warning po that jihad is loyal to the Islamic State group. Flush with looted guns and cash could seize another city in the country. Sabi niya po, the chances of having another Marawi siege cannot be overruled. So what's the military's position on this?
Well, of course, from our experience from the Marawi siege, we are preparing for another urban warfare. No, in the eventuality that something similar to Marawi City happens, we should be ready. So, from the lessons that we learned, we are now rewriting our doctrines. We are now reorganizing our units. We are re-equipping and retraining. So, from the side of the armed forces, handa po kami for another Marawi siege, no? Whether it happens in Marawi or elsewhere. Kaya nga po, nakikiusap rin kami sa mga iba't ibang mga grupo to help us in our advocacy to counter violent extremism and radicalism. And of course, we are banking on the MILF to help us with this. No? Sabi naman po nila that they do not believe in violent extremism. So sana po ay maging katulong namin sila dito sa kampanya or sa advocacy natin against violent extremism, terrorism, and radicalism.
Okay, Sheila Ferias?
To Colonel Browner pa rin po. Sir, given sa sinabi niyo, meron ba kayo na monitor na activities ng mga terrorists ngayon na possible na maging Marawi situation dati?
I can give you an update on what's happening in Marawi City and Lanao del Sur. As far as Marawi City is concerned, it is relatively safe, no, and secured. Pero po dito sa labas ng Marawi City, especially around Lanao Lake, since January, we have had 3 encounters already. Now, if you recall, we had an encounter last June 20 in the municipality of Masyo. And then the following day, in the municipality of Pagayawan. The next day, our forces were able to apprehend 3 members of the Maute ISIS. No? And then recently, February 8, there was another encounter in the municipality of Pantar in Lanao del Sur. All of this against believed members of the Maute ISIS. So naniniwala tayo na may mga remnants pa rin na gumagalaw dyan. And right now, they're trying to recruit more members. No?
But sir, yung forces ba nila enough na makagawa ulit ng another Marawi?
Well, sa ngayon, hindi pa nila kayang gumawa. Ang assessment po namin on the ground is that hindi pa nila kayang gumawa ng isang pag-atake katulad ng ginawa nila sa Marawi City.
MPC questions? Ina Andolong? Microphone please, Laila.
for ASEC Toby, sir, you mentioned yung 51.6 billion pesos na needs for recovery. Do we already have enough funding to cover this amount? Because I believe medyo smaller yung estimates na binibigay dati.
Yes, we have funding. Our funding sources are from the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Fund, which is in the General Appropriations Act. That is 10 billion for this year. Now, itong 51 billion naman na to, hindi lang ito this year, no? These are short-term PPAs that would cover not only this year but in the coming years. So, multiple year yung ating funding sources para dito. And we're exploring other funding sources, like together with our development partners, together with the private sector. Meron ding allocation dyan ang regional government ng ARMM at ang city government of Marawi. So, combination yan ng funding, yung pagkukuhanan niyang 51 billion.
How much of that amount, sir, will be, kumbaga, yung for this year? Will it just be the 10 billion for this year?
Well, from the on the part of the budget, yes, subject to augmentation. Of course, whenever we determine that we can already proceed with certain projects, we will request for augmentation in terms of the NDRM fund, no, to cover additional projects for the year.
And the timeline, sir, is until what year?
Well, we have short-term PPAs, no, which cover this year or perhaps until 2019, no. But definitely we have projects until 2022. And these are all being planned, and these are all going to be part of the Comprehensive Rehabilitation and Recovery Program, or the CRRP of Marawi, which we expect to be released by the end of the first quarter or in March.
Foreign aid, sir, are we also considering...
Kasama yan sa discussion, again, the resource mobilization, the finance and resource mobilization subcommittee or support group of the task force, they're still discussing this. Dahil maraming nag-express ng tulong, no? And we're discussing this, and idadovetail natin ito sa available resources at sa ating PPAs.
Lastly, sir, are we still on track doon sa target to begin actual construction in Ground Zero by mid-April?
Yes. Our target is still mid-April to early May, no, for the groundbreaking for the MAA, no. Ito yung development of the most affected area. And the process is, the selection process to choose the developers is ongoing.
Ilan yung bidder, sir? Tapos na ba yung bidding pagsabit nung...
Ongoing. Kasi
Ongoing
Swiss
pa.
challenge process yan. So it's a long process. It's a complex process where there will be unsolicited proposals, and these proposals would have to be evaluated, and eventually these proposals would have to be challenged. Yun yung tinatawag nating Swiss challenge. So this is a very tedious process, but the task force is doing it. There's a technical working group established under the task force, and there's also a selection committee that will finally recommend the developer that will undertake the development of the most affected area.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, question? MPC? Rosalie Cos.
Ay, sir. Regarding po sa mga reports na nag-stop na raw po ng pagbibigay ng relief goods sa mga nasa evacuation centers, pwede po ba nating ipakiulat kung ano po yung katotohanan dun sa mga reports na yun?
We haven't received any reports na natigil na, no? Perhaps this is just a logistics issue na sa distribution process. Pero tuloy-tuloy ang ating pagbibigay ng tulong, pagbibigay ng relief sa ating mga IDPs. Again, we're not ending the relief phase, no, or the early recovery phase of this conflict, no. Patuloy ang ating pagbibigay ng relief sa kanila. I know that for a fact. So if there are issues na hindi nare-receive on time or baka kulang ang nare-receive, we will check on that, and thank you for raising that. But it may just be a distribution issue. Again, as I've said ever since, this is a continuing effort, at kung merong mga improvements na kailangan gagawin natin ito para sa ating mga IDPs.
Pwede pong malaman kung ilan pa po yung nasa evacuation centers, and dun sa 10 billion budget for this year, magkano po yung nakalaan para sa relief assistance?
Yung sa relief assistance, this will be coming from agency budgets, no. Mostly meron budgets ang ating mga line agencies para ipagpatuloy ang relief efforts. I don't have the exact figures as to the number of IDPs, but we have 67 evacuation centers still up, no. And in these 67 evacuation centers, now I just like to report that actually the chairman of the Task Force Bangon Marawi, Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario, he's been in Marawi since Wednesday. No, hanggang ngayon nandun pa rin siya sa Marawi in Iligan dahil nagko-consultation sila sa mga leaders ng IDPs sa mga doon sa barangay sa Gonsongan, no. At yun yung na-inaugurate na at pagpatuloy yung paggawa ng transitional shelters doon, no. Meron nang na-identify na site 2, no, a second site for the transitional shelters, which is approximately 2 kilometers. 2 kilometers away from the most affected area. Meron lang mga inaayos na detalye regarding sa paggamit ng lupa. But this is the second site is a 15-hectare area site and could accommodate 1,300 additional transitional shelters.
Questions?
Sir, if I may.
Colonel Browner.
Yeah. Sure.
Sir, with your permission, I have some figures po that I got from Task Force Bangon Marawi before coming over. So the number of IDP families remaining in evacuation centers is 60,892. And then the number of transitional shelters that have been completed is 850.
60,000 families, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
More than 60,000.
Families as of February 7.
Okay. MPC question? Kay Colonel Browner, sir, paano nyo ika-counter naman yung mga misinformation? Kasi nung panahon ng Marawi Siege, ang daming ganyan. Tsaka yun yung ginagamit pag-recruit.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking that question. Sa ngayon po, the people of Marawi City and Lanao del Sur are clamoring for more information. They want to know they want to know basically what the plan is for in the rehabilitation and recovery of Marawi City. So what we really need to do is to give them the right kind of information. Kaya nga po itong forum natin is very helpful, but we also need to have this kind of forum in Marawi City or Iligan City. So we are moving towards that. And also, by the way, the Task Force Bangon Marawi and PIA will be launching a radio program this week in Iligan City and Marawi City. This is aimed at giving the right kind of information so that we will be able to counter the fake news and the misinformation that is happening on the ground.
Okay, thank you. Sheila? Microphone, Kat.
Colonel, quick lang po. Yung groundbreaking sa April, I understand, dependent dun sa pag-clear nyo sa main battle area. How many % na po yung cleared as of now?
Ang estimate po ng ating engineers is that about 60% of the area has been cleared already. However, dun po sa number of bombs that we have so far cleared is only 14 out of 70. No? 70 po yung number of bombs that were dropped by our aircraft that did not explode. So hinahanap pa natin ito. So far, we have found 14 and we were able to dispose of them. No? However, yung pong area na 60% na sinasabi namin is the area covered by our EODs. No? Yung mga explosive ordnance disposal teams natin. So we are working doubly hard to make sure that we meet that deadline. Para bago mag groundbreaking, we will be able to allow the developers to come in because the area has been cleared already. we have been requesting for some equipment so that we will be able to do the work faster. No?
Okay.
We have an Director ko of DepEd will provide us an update on the status of our learners in the area.
Just to add to the question with respect to Sagonsogan, I'd like to inform the public that DepEd actually is also ready for the construction of what we call the temporary learning spaces. We have committed, our partners have actually provided us the materials for the construction of the temporary learning spaces. Starting next week, the delivery will happen and construction will then commence. This is about 37 temporary learning spaces for the students to for us to ensure the learning continuity of our students whose families will actually be transferred there. I'd like to inform the public as well that because the question has been asked in terms of the budget, the 2018 budget, the DepEd has requested from the NDRMF fund more than 750 million actually for the reconstruction and repair of damaged school buildings. That would cover the schools outside the most affected area as well as the identified permanent resettlement site at this point. So I'd like to ensure that 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, DepEd has actually started also for the early registration, calling for the early registration for the next school year. So we'd like to assure the public that for the next school year, all schools within the outside the main battle area as well as in the permanent resettlement site, as long as there will be a school, there will be already the logistical requirements ready for the other agencies, we will follow suit and be able to have the opening of classes on time. Thank you.
Okay, MPC questions? Okay. ASEC Purisima, do you have a statement?
Thank you very much again for participating in this Bangon Marawi press conference. Thank you to our guests. For more news and stories about the efforts for the rehabilitation and recovery of Marawi City, you may visit www.bangonmarawi.com. Once again, we close this briefing with our own message to the affected communities of our conflict-torn city. Kasama niyo kami sa pagbangon ng Marawi. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay.
Okay, thank you, Assistant Secretary Purisima. Thank you, Colonel Browner. Thank you, Director Ko. Thank you, Malacañang Press Corps. Back to our main studio sa Radyo Pilipinas and People's Television.